The everlasting idea for which all people search. Strange how a single word can encompass the whole human pursuit to pursue, the search for meaning, the philosopher's perplexity that precipitates the perpetual pursuit to puzzle through the pessimistic pondering, prompting the question, what is the point? Where is the plan? Why do I exist? Purpose. Purpose defines existence. Everything that exists and continues to exist has a use that defines it. Names are given to things that have definitions, and so it's only a logical step to state that purpose is what gives things their names. The true Rosetta Stone. For things across different cultures, classes, countries, time, and space may go by different names, but are still recognizable by their unified purpose. A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. For there's nothing sweeter than to walk through life with conviction in every step and purpose with every breath. To mean something when someone asks you, what's your name? And you respond with, my name is... It's fitting for a Shakespearean tragedy to find just the right words to describe the power purpose provides. After all, a person who lacks it is destined to find themselves in nothing but tragedy, left destroyed or defiled. With most things, their definition is one given to them by their creator or discoverer. It is given a name to denote what it does, the position it holds. A bed is an object to sleep on, the floor is something to stand on, the road is a place to travel on. When we use these things as they are intended for, they excel, thrive, and succeed. When we don't, they fail, shrivel, and die. Everything around us is oscillating through life, from small electrons to our emotions. Anything that oscillates works best when they find resonance instead of driving it at an unfamiliar state. It takes a lot more work to convince ourselves of something that is against our nature than it is to hit it spot on. 5 little monkeys jumping on a bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, "Put those monkeys right to bed." Even a nursery rhyme, as most nursery rhymes do, warns us of the dangers of going against intent. Yet, no matter how many times we hear our parents' warnings, we still go even further, doomed to the curiosity of making the mistakes for ourselves. Eventually, the bed will fall apart. It will no longer be a bed, just pieces of what it once was, torn apart by the utter disregard for something it wasn't intended to do. Although we as people are not inanimate objects who exist for the sole purpose of being used by others, whose sole purpose is existing despite the animate, we too live in the same universe, governed by the same laws. When we are born, it's imbued upon us a name. What a powerful thing that is to be known as something rather than a thing. It. With that name breathes the first hint of direction, and from that point on, unlike the inanimate, we are given free will. The freedom to make our own choices, to find our own way, to find reason. Sometimes I think it'd be easier to be just like a tree and just do what I'm supposed to do. For to be aimless and free, unbounded, is just as confining as being locked in a cage. It is right for us to fear purposelessness, for if we were to achieve it, we will end up like the bed, pieces of what we once were. I've never been at a lack of passion. There's always something that ignites my fiery instinct to try something new, to do something better. At the same time, I was taught that to be good at something, you must work at it. You must push through even when it feels like your feet are stuck in the mud, when it seems like the whole world is just turned into a giant pit of quicksand trying to suck you in. My beliefs and my inclinations are the juxtaposition that make up the eternal battle that is eternally waged inside my subconscious. Fighting a war that has no end, a fight of the very ideology that governs my behavior and therefore my impact on the world. My desire to try shines the brightest but burns out the fastest. I never feel very excited for too long. Almost always I'm in a neutral state. When I get an award or succeed in a goal, for one moment, I'm happy. Happy not because I accomplished something, but because it's finally over. Happy someone acknowledged the work I did. Happy that I finally get to do something new. And so I do. I move on to the next thing that gives me that brief moment of thrill before the realization that to do it right, To do it the way that I want it to be done, I have to do it to the end and past that. It's the only way I find peace in the war between freedom and security, through my ambition, my need to do everything great, my need to do something extraordinary. Yet I have no idea what that is, and it haunts me. I've always had this hope that I would do something influential. Maybe that's what's so fascinating to me about public speaking, the ability to convey that message that keeps scratching at the door, begging to come out, for that fleeting opportunity to communicate with someone, to have a connection, to come out in the form of words, the only true way to evaluate our deepest thoughts, fully defined instead of incoherent blobs that flow endlessly around our confusingly complex consciousness. A way to finally understand those voices that keep me up at night, and the hopes that someone can relate, to feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. Yet, the only other way I see people make an impact outside of the occasional conversation with the person who is sitting uncomfortably close to them is through doing something great. I know that it's not in my nature that I'll become the greatest in one field. I'll never be the greatest physicist, musician, bodybuilder, engineer. I don't want to be. I don't want to put in what it takes to be the best. But I do want to be the best version of myself, whatever that means. Despite my incessant need to work all the time in the hopes to create just enough food to feed the ravenous beast that howls in the moonlight, telling me I should be doing more, I don't like to work. So if I'm not a person who will be defined by their defining work, then am I destined to be defined by someone else's, or even worse, to be defined by nothing at all? Then that begs the question, who even am I? Well, we're all just made up of a bunch of particles miraculously woven together in an intelligent design, crafted to adapt and survive. Yet like all particles that we learn about in physics class, when left uninterrupted, will take the path of least resistance, a state that tends towards entropy, for it takes less energy for things to fall apart than it is to put something back together. So just like a particle, we require work to create potential. It's only just the people who reach the highest potential are heeded as something special, destined to be famous. For it's rare for someone to go up energy states without falling down in one final burst of mystical light. I've never really wanted to be famous, although it being a direct result of the things I intend to do. But I hate the idea of not having privacy. I spend most of my time alone despite my desire to be well-liked by others, and those nagging whispers that doubt my facilities to avoid the impending fate of being all alone. It's not like I don't understand the appeal of fame. In high school and below, most people knew me, albeit a shadow of the person I truly was, but they knew my name. And no matter how shallow and annoying I once thought that was, I found it's much better to be known for something than to be nothing and no one. The social gratification of being ubiquitously accepted by peers is intoxicating. We are social creatures after all, but it's more than that. It's like we as humans are so averse to looking inward, so afraid of what we might see when we shine a light on the monster under the bed, that we hope that somehow fulfillment lies elsewhere, somewhere in the new world, the next frontier, the great unknown. And maybe it does. We often outsource our search for purpose. We look for a relationship, a friend, a pet, just anything we can touch that would give us that feeling of belonging, that feeling that you have something worth having. When we can't find that, we think there must be something we can fix, and we look towards status and money. Maybe that will do it. Yet we find the lonely with a partner, the poor in spirit with the rich, and the weak with the famous. If we could outsource purpose, then we wouldn't find these phenomena of juxtapositions in which we see in every aspect of life. Yet despite me knowing this is not the place to seek for that sense of satisfaction with my life, we live in a world that makes idols out of these things. People use these things to try and get the smallest semblance of control in a life where they feel they have none. How do I survive in a world where it's required to have even small amounts of money and status to get by and not succumb to it, endlessly searching for that next level of rising the ranks or getting a pay raise to give me that infinitesimal hit of pleasure, like a drug addict, an addict where the drug is gambling away each other's dignity, seeing people as nothing more than transitionary transactional objects to be used like a broom to sweep under the rug all of our aches and pains instead of actually taking the time to clean up, giving us just enough room to forget what was, to be doomed to do the same things over and over again. I don't want to live in a roundabout, pretending like every time I see the same bump in the road that I'm surprised that things are about to go downhill again. I want to be better than the confines of my limited understanding of the world. I want to find meaning. I struggle to tell if anything I do has any real influence. Everything has been done before. It feels like there's no more room for making something that can change the world. Like I was born at the wrong time, tens of years past the revolution. Is it enough to just be a unique individual with a unique life experience to make something uniquely their own, to make something new and interesting? I find that difficult to believe. Everything that I attempt to do all seems so insignificant, and it's hard to see it any other way. I've always thought that the way I think now is how I've always thought. My ideas have matured and become more complex over time, but at their roots, they've always been the same. Whenever I say or do something, all I see are what it took to get there and all the things that can be done better. I never see what other people see. So how do I know that the things I do actually mean anything at all? One way I've tried to understand this impossible task we call the human experience is through consuming media, mainly TV shows and the occasional movie. I'll never get tired of a good story, learning about why a character does what they do, how they interact with the world in the hopes to understand how the characters in the real world may react to the absurdities of life. A couple of months ago, some friends and I decided to watch some movies. To optimize our time, we decided to hit different venues within the vicinity of the campus. We thought nothing of it, just an opportunity to have some fun. But those movies gave us some perspective. Well, at least it did for me. The first movie was Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the second movie was Pixar's Soul. Despite being drastically different movies, they both postulate on the same quandary. What is the meaning of life? Through strangely similar means, they both arrive at a similar answer, which I think is an elegant way to begin to understand the means in which we as people can find purpose in our lives. In Soul, we have a man, Joe, with great talent and ambition, who feels he is stuck in the wrong life. He dreams of being a professional jazz musician, but is stuck instead as a school music teacher. He feels that his life is meaningless, and that if he were to die that day, he would have never done anything memorable. In Everything Everywhere All at Once, we have a woman, Evelyn, who feels that she's made all the wrong decisions in her life and fantasizes what it would be like if she had taken a different path, as she believes that her life is the worst outcome of all the possible choices that she has made. Both characters' pessimistic view of the world has affected everyone in their life. Through a mystical journey, both characters are confronted with their life and their choices before getting to live the lives and experiences of someone else to help them better understand their own life. Joe realizes that the things that made life worth living were the small things that he had taken for granted. He realized the impact he had on his students, who he had helped inspire and find their calling. Evelyn realizes that she and the people around her are what make her life special, despite its simplicity. She understands that the people in her life have made her better, and despite there being other outcomes to her life, she wouldn't have it any other way. They both realize that if anything means nothing, then we have the opportunity to make everything mean something. For the point of life is just living. Life is not this mythical dream of grandeur or the possible better outcome that makes it worth living, but rather the day-to-day life and the wrong turns we make that gives us meaning. It's a matter of perspective on how we view the world. Joe and Evelyn's experience, like all good media should, made me reflect on the things that give my life meaning. After long and deep contemplation and conversations, I realized I was just thinking about this way too hard. It highlighted the fact that meaning can be found even in the smallest of places, including in other people. And to be honest, I think that's all there is to it. All these existential questions boil down to the fact that all humans deserve to be respected, to look at every person in front of you with the belief that they have something worth knowing, in the hopes that someone may one day do the same for you. And maybe they won't. But we should do it anyway, because all we can do is lead by example. We can't control other people's actions, emotions, and thoughts. We can only control our own. So the best we can do is do the best we can. I guess some would call this love. I know, how cliche, all this talking to say love. But I think that's it. It's pertinent that we strive to help each other become the best versions of ourselves, to save lives. The truth is that we need other people to become better people. Maybe that's our collective purpose. We should want to be better for the people in our lives who support us in our pursuits by supporting them in theirs. For what is the point of spending our whole life building up a resume to die with an empty eulogy? What is the point of having and knowing and doing so many things if you have no one to share it with? Our function is to make each other better, and how we do that is what defines our unique purpose, and that lies within. It requires us to analyze in the most challenging way what we are doing and prioritizing what's important, and that can be terrifying. We live in a damaged world where it's so much easier to do wrong, where it's so much easier to tell ourselves that morality can change instead of taking a modicum of accountability, where it's so much easier to deny good than to change our behavior, where it's so much easier to identify with our experience instead of our purpose. Yet we still have choice, and with choice we have the perfect opportunity to choose to do good, because it means so much more when you could have done anything else. We grow up wanting to be superheroes so that we can beat the bad guy and save the world. But when we are grown up, we think those are just stories of fantasy, and a person who indulges in it too long is a foolish child refusing to learn what it means to be an adult. But the truth is, we're not wrong to want to be the hero. You don't have to be a superhero to do so. Every single day we fight a real battle through what we want and what is right. And heroes are the ones who choose to do right in the face of a world that tells us it's okay to be lenient with our integrity. Think about the people who have impacted your life significantly. They're probably not the richest, the most famous, most powerful person in the world, but their impact on you has been just as great as someone who's had those things. That is a hero, a person who will live on forever through you, their legacy. This idea of doing something that could make even just one person's life better is enchanting to me. It's what gives my name a definition. And I will continue to pursue different avenues to find my way of doing my share in saving lives. I will continue to ask myself if it's morally justified in monetizing helping others, turning creativity into a job, if my work is something worth buying, or if anything I do is actually helping people. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I will be doing, and I don't know what I have to do. But what I do know is that we have been given the opportunity, just by the fact that we exist, to do something, anything, and it's up to us to make it meaningful. So we have to try. We have to look for glorious purpose. So next time someone asks you, "What's your name?" say it with conviction, say it with meaning, for a name is telling someone your definition. When they hear it, it should mean something. It should tell them what you stand for and what you've done, but most importantly, who you are. My name is Ezekiel Jean Day. I want my name to be an adjective that should mean something to someone someday. What about you? What's your name?
Yeah, I'll be honest, 요준이 생각에만 나 It's dishonest to say that I've been feeling alive 난 아니야 Staying up in night all the time 새 네가 필요 없다고 그 잔인한 거짓말 Now I'm sprung, running through my head 네 옆에 말해줘 시간 없다고 헐 때가 가라고